iScrappers Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, June 5th, 2019. We hope that everyone is doing well, staying busy. It's crazy. It's been 75 years since the storming of Normandy and D-Day, and the President Trump is over in England, celebrating the anniversary with many other European leaders. Sometimes it's crazy to just think, back then, you want to tie this into scrap. There were posters that we saw circulating around 70, 80 years ago where people were asked to bring all of their metal in for scrap so the U.S. could build tanks and guns and different things for the Army, and everything had to do with fueling the Army to stop the war. And it's just so crazy sometimes when you look at such a bigger picture compared to what we're looking at today. And we're only a few short years away from many of those veterans that were on those beaches of Normandy passing away and leaving a piece of history behind. I know that there was people on site today in Europe anywhere from 94 to 102 years old. So if you subtract 75 from that, you're talking about 19 to 26, 27-year-old kids storming those beaches along with tens of thousands of other people. And it's just a crazy thing to think about. But over the last week, we've been watching these markets, paying close attention. Maybe some of you saw the stock market yesterday surging over 500 points. You'll say, yeah, that's great. How did that affect the metal prices? And we'll say, well, it affected them little to zero. We saw the copper prices jump a couple of cents, and then they lowered down about a penny this morning. So in my mind, that's a non-move. And it all really goes back to the tariffs. Yesterday's move in the stock market was due to the Fed chair saying that if the economy did seem to have a bit of a slowdown, that they would lower interest rates, and that's what drove many people to having such a buying spree, to be able to buy buying different stocks. That's why the market itself went up, but that didn't really talk about the tariff situation. It didn't talk about the metals and kind of different other metal commodity situations. So it was one of those great to see things being positive, and they've continued today with over 100-point gain. But the metal market hasn't really seen that effect. We've seen the metal prices drop down another $5-7 per ton on steel. Copper relatively flat, aluminum relatively flat, stainless relatively flat, although gold has increased. When we saw the tariff, the potential tariffs that are going to be levied on the Mexicans starting on Monday, the 5% tariff that's going to go into effect for all goods coming out of Mexico going into the U.S., we saw the Mexican peso go down, we saw the U.S. dollar go up, and we saw gold prices rise like $30-40 per ounce. I think it's around $1,335 per ounce right now, and that directly tied to the tariffs or the potential tariffs that could be levied onto Mexico by the U.S. starting on June 10th, and then on the 1st of every month it's going to be increasing another 5% until it gets to a 25% tariff, until they hopefully start helping with some of the different border concerns, as President Trump put it. So that directly affected the gold prices. So we're looking at that not from a political standpoint, but from a metal standpoint. So we did see those gold prices increase, and you would think that electronics would increase. Now, electronics are not things that most people are recycling or scrapping daily. So when you are scrapping them, maybe it's 1, 2, 3 times a year, taking computers, laptops, cell phones, hard drives, power supplies, and other things apart, you're not really going to see much of an increase, because a lot of this material that was flowing out of the U.S. going to China has been diverted to Europe and Canada and some other countries for the precious metal refining. But we really haven't seen too much of a change other than that. We've seen some of the palladium and rhodium and platinum prices decreasing from where they kind of topped out for the catalytic converter market. But overall, we've been watching this thing on pins and needles. Today is June 5th, and 15 days from now is when President Xi and President Trump will have a meeting in Japan at the G20 summit, and it's going to be a really big meeting. Now, we did hear a couple of comments over the weekend by the Chinese saying that they, didn't think that some of the things that they pulled back on were going to cause the U.S. to, really talk about these tariffs and this trade war in such a negative light compared to the progression and the positive things that we had going on. But it is what happened, and the Chinese have come back to the table, have started to renegotiate and started the negotiating process with the U.S. And we're just watching this, staying tuned to see what happens. I'm really, really hoping that 3 weeks from now we see a major change, a major policy shift, that we see the markets having a big uptick at the end of June going into the 4th of July and going into the rest of the summer. If we can hear a positive piece of news, if we see both President Xi and President Trump standing next to each other doing a joint conference talking about how that they have agreed to a potential tariff renegotiation and elimination, that would be the best gift that we could have in the scrap world. You would see copper prices increasing. You might not see an immediate increase on steel, but you would start to see it in the coming weeks as many contracts are taken out and steel isn't traded on the open market like copper is, or gold, those base metals. You'd see really great articles coming out, and over the next few months, or let's talk about the next few weeks after that potentially would happen, we would see the market maybe level off a little bit. The excitement would really climb, similar to what happened yesterday with the stock market having its second best day in 2019, surging 500 points. So you'd see a real big uptick in copper. Some people would sell some contracts, buy some contracts. Metal prices would dip down, but our goal is to have maybe a 15-20 cent jump in a few days, even less than a week. Scrap yards will not immediately change their prices. Of course, you can tune in on our Wednesday or Saturday updates and we'll let you know what's going on with the different prices. Scrap yards might not have an immediate change because they're going to want to see how things level off. The spreads will widen because large jumps normally means that something special happened, whether it was a mine going down, a potential flood happening that's going to shut a mine off. What we don't want to see, we don't want to see huge increases. So this would be a huge increase tied directly to a potential tariff truce. What we would want to see is that increase leveling off or climbing slowly. We don't want to see quick jumps up or down. We want to see slow climbs and slow decreases because they're never going to go like this. They're never going to go all the way up. We're going to want to see it go slow. If we can see it go slow, that means that we're going to see a stable market for the rest of 2019, and that is going to be something that's going to help our copper prices, our brass prices, and even open up potential trade with the Chinese on insulated copper wire again, which will really help the market overall. So that's what we're really tuning into, and of course we'll have 2 more weekly reports and live videos between now and then, but we might end up doing a special weekly report that week on the 20th or the 21st if we see something positive or if we see something negative. So pencil that in right around Friday Friday the 21st, we will have a special weekly report, just our little one that we've been talking about for over a year, and hopefully you're going to see some balloons and streamers and lots of positive things coming out and some emojis or whatever it is that we can do to act happy. Otherwise I might be dressed in all black. But it looks like we have a question.
In the meantime, should people sell a certain material that might be stable, or should you for the higher priced commodities, just hold everything?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that I don't really like to answer because everyone has their own opinion. So I'll tell you a couple of right answers, right? You're correct if you want to hold on to your material for 2 or 3 weeks. You're correct if you want to sell it today because you need money. You're correct if you want to not do anything and see where the markets shake out. You're correct if you want to stockpile and hoard things. There's no right or wrong answer here, because if you have 300 pounds of copper and you have a rent payment coming up and that copper equals your rent, then you have to sell it. If you do scrap on the side and it's something that helps supplement your income or is a bonus, if you will, or added income and you don't need it right now, I would say to wait until after the meeting. But know that if the meeting does not go positive, the market will more than likely go down. Question?
We had a comment from Chris, kind of replying to what you said. Process your junk while you're sitting on it.
Well, that's a great idea. And that's a great piece of information. What we do at our scrapyard, a lot of things that take a longer amount of time to process and are at a lower price will generally save for the winter time. We call them winter work. And this could be summer work where you have computers that need to be taken apart, or you have all of your other copper ready and prepared, or you need to strip stuff. This would be a perfect time for that. Now just keep in mind that if the meeting does not go well, there's a chance that these markets go down another 15-20 cents a pound. So this is where the gamble comes in. Are you going to gamble that the meeting goes well? Are you going to gamble that things are going to stay the same? Are you going to gamble that they go down? If you were to ask me what I think is going to happen, and this is my opinion, this is not my advice, okay? I think that these tariffs have weighed on both countries for a long time. I think that the Chinese are in a position where, they were trying to call the U.S.'s bluff, and the tariffs have continued to increase recently from 10 to 25%. And they don't seem to be slowing down, where more and more things are going to come at the Chinese, or not come at the Chinese, aka work, technology, computer chips from the United States. Now if that happens, we're going to see the Chinese be in a little bit of a scuttle, and they're going to try to figure out what's going on. So I fully expect a deal to happen this month. Now, if you ask me, am I holding on to my medal to see if the deal happens and I can make a couple of extra bucks? No, I'm not. That's not the nature of what I do. I take things in, I push things out. But I do think that for you, if you're, looking for advice, please, don't yell at me if I'm wrong. But I think that this has gone on long enough, and the Chinese have seen that the president of the United States is serious enough that they want these things done correctly. They've seen an elimination of NAFTA and a new agreement between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. They've started to see some negotiations happening with different European countries. So they've seen the U.S. working with other people to get more fair trade deals, as many members of the world have taken advantage of the United States and its wealth for many years, and it looks like President Trump is trying to eliminate that and have everything kind of level off and be a fair playing field. Now, a lot of people are right, because if you were in China making a lot of money off the U.S., you're not going to be happy. And you could have been in the U.S. selling a lot of scrap, and you were happy because the Chinese continued to buy it, and at a very high price as the markets were up. But what we want is stability. We want a stable market that allows everyone to make money and know where the prices are going to be 80-90% of the time. There's always going to be things that happen and different occurrences that are going to move markets, from natural disasters to shortages to overabundances and oversupply at different mills, scrapyards, and export markets. So what we want is a fair deal to happen, and hopefully we'll be able to see these prices go up 30 to 40 cents by the end of 2019. Now the steel market's been down. We've seen oil prices, of course, shooting up, down, back, forth. They've just been kind of moving a little bit here, a little bit there. So we've been watching them as closely as we can. Like we mentioned, gold prices are up. Aluminum has been relatively flat. The nickel market has been relatively flat, which affects stainless steel, of course. And we've been watching most of these other markets, just knowing that a lot of people are waiting to see what happens. So, guys, this is Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, June 5th, 2019. We always appreciate you tuning in and asking some of your great questions, posting some of your pictures, and telling other scrappers how you do your scrap and how you take certain things apart. We'd love to hear more opinions, more pieces of advice, more ideas to help fuel us to fuel you. Until next week, scrappers, I'll scrap you later.